Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Super License F1 podcast. My name is Rodney.
And my name is Zach.
Good to be talking to you, Zach. For the Chinese Grand Prix, I had to shush you before we started recording because I was so excited to get into this fantastic adrenaline-pumped, if you can pump a race with adrenaline, race. It was really good, I thought. Just the best race ever.
Yeah, I couldn't keep my eyes off it. I definitely wasn't
keep
dozing.
My eyes open.
Yes, it was a little bit like that. It was really like, ooh, what a great start. And then when you're in it, it's like, yeah, they're racing around and people are talking and there's things to discuss. But it sometimes it feels like the endurance race. Like when you're like, how do people sit there and watch 24 hours of Le Mans? Like it's because it's kind of like that for the entire time.
Yeah. Yeah,
but this has none of the strategy or like Formula One has none of the strategy and endurance bits that endurance champion
people
has.
Covering the 24 hours of Le Mans will literally schedule in a sleep. They'll be like, I'm going to go to sleep for 6 hours if something happens now. And they'll work in shifts, and it's crazy. But Formula One's not meant to be like that. It's meant to be exciting, especially when it's from the Shanghai International Circuit. It's the Chinese Grand Prix, a race that just standing in front of an audience and asking them to love it. Complementing the 16 corners is a long straight, longer than 11 football pitches put together, Zach, and over 500 times more exciting. Since the first Chinese Grand Prix in 2004, this Tilkodrome has started wearing less and going out more with bottles of champagne out on the dance floor and hanging with some grid girls that I've never seen before. Put on your red Shang Tsang, we're going to the People's Republic of Fast. It's China, baby.
Pause for laughter and applause.
And the action.
Well, I think that's right up there. Like, this was a difficult one for you to put together an intro like that for, and I think you've done very well. I'm sure that when this podcast is distributed in China, parts of that will be redacted.
Yes.
So that it can get through the great cyber wall of China, firewall of China, the great firewall of China. That's what it's called.
They'll be replaced with something more sensitive, like I don't know, like the Beach Boys Surfing USA or something like that.
Yeah, a year ago I was in China, not at the race, but I was there. So my phone reminded me today.
The infamous year where you went to all the countries and none of the races. Zach, we're an F1 podcast. You probably know that, but we're supported by people who give us money on the Super License Club. And I want to give everyone a shout out because it's been a little while since we've done that. Thanks, everybody. You're keeping the lights on, keeping the servers
Thank you so much.
flowing, keeping the downloads flowing, I guess, with your contributions to the Super License Club. We have been teasing for a little while that we're going to do a special episode about the Netflix series. So maybe we should start thinking about getting that one done and giving out a little present. We have given out an episode of Drift already this year, but it's time to get that one done. And the first of the coasters are going to get sent out soon. So we've been saying that for people who sign up or upgrade their Super License Club membership, they go in the running to win some coasters. There's 10 sets, and man, the chances of someone getting one are really, really good. So again, if you've ever wanted to sign up, you can go to the superlicense.com.au website, go to the club link and sign up for the club at any level that you wish. $5 or more will get you access to the Super License podcast members only exclusive podcasts. Any contribution will get you access or you go in the running to get a set of the wooden coasters with our logo on them. Amazing craftsmanship and just an amazing, I guess, talking piece. And so that's all that's done. And there's nothing else to do but get into the race unless Zach has something up his sleeve.
I was just going to say, if you don't have coasters, this is a great way to get some coasters. You should really think about the surfaces that you have and try to look after them, especially when you've got a frosty, sparkling water or ale. Whilst you're watching the next races, you want to make sure you're not leaving those little cup rings on your beautiful coffee table.
That suggests that you can actually use these coasters. I kind of like to think that people are going to frame them and put them up on a wall, but I guess you're right. I suppose you can use them on your coffee table if you like. Yeah,
straight to the pool room.
Straight to the pool room, Zach. Let us go straight to the Shanghai Grand Prix with our race recap.
Let us race a bit. I gave him space.
Sack my bones, mate.
Let's hurry up and get out of here. We got a race to do.
Woo! It's the Chinese Grand Prix, Zach. I guess it's going to be a quick recap because we've been introducing this thing with a 30-second race recap at the start of the race recap, I guess. So the whole race recap in its totality may only take 4 or 5 minutes this week. But anyway, Zach, I think it's your turn in the rotation. Are you ready to try and whip through all of the action from this race in only 30 seconds? Boy, you might have about 25 seconds to spare on this one. Are you ready to go?
Yes, I am.
I will begin the timer, and you know when to start.
Well, this race, Rod, and everybody listening, we had a Mercedes 1-2 where they absolutely cruised to victory because of some really poor Ferrari planning, where they just really didn't look like they had the pace. Mercedes were in a league of their own, absolutely dominating. It was a little bit upsetting for Bottas, who was just a little bit slow off the line, but from there, Hamilton just cruised to victory. We had a little bit of a crash from Daniil's the torpedo Kvyat, but it wasn't really his fault, right? Surely he took out both McLarens. I mean, what a double. It was like a split in bowling. He managed to hit one and the other. And Albon raced from the pit lane all the way to 10th. Points for him. Take it home, Toro.
Very good. Especially like that you worked in a bowling analogy right in the middle of that. I was like, you're 15 seconds in and you're talking about the start.
Yeah, what's going to happen that quick?
I thought he's in trouble here, and then a bowling analogy later, and then boom, the timer goes off and you did it. Well done, Zay. That was really good.
Thank you. I mean, I think we're going to be so good at this by the end of the year that that could just become the show.
You're not
we should
wrong.
be putting them out just as the show.
Yeah, man, you really covered off all the main points. I mean, we had Valtteri Bottas starting from pole, and it looked like for a moment that we had the Bottas of old, and by old I mean 2 races old from Australia, and took a dominating pole really, and just left it up to Hamilton right off the start. Had a pretty poor getaway, and he was blaming after the race, the paint on the start finish line, and it's like, really? Everyone drove over the start finish line. I know you were the closest, and the chances of it happening, if it was going to happen to anyone, it was going to happen to him, but I don't know. I thought that was a bit wishy-washy and whatever. But anyway, once Hamilton was in the lead, we kind of all knew what was going to happen, didn't we?
Yeah, definitely. When they looked pretty strong all weekend, and we're kind of waiting for the Ferrari fight back at points. And, this is a track where, as we saw Max Verstappen do, that you can use a bit of strategy, get yourself back in with an undercut here and DRS there and different tyre strategy like we saw from Daniel Ricciardo last year of, maybe getting some overtakes late in the race. But it just was all a bit simple. And it really did strike me as a race where we were missing another Red Bull, maybe. It just doesn't, it feels like we've kind of blown, like the gaps between everybody's blown out again from where we started in the first weekend. It felt like things were really tight at the top, possibly. And now I looked at the starting grid and I was like, 2 Mercedes, 2 Ferrari, 2 Red Bull, 2 Renault. Like it was just a bit, yeah, exactly. It was just so straightforward. Everybody's just kind of split up a bit. And at a track like Shanghai, where there's a good amount of runoff space, it's not it's not super complicated to drive around. There are a couple of points, here and there. It was easy for Hamilton to manage the race from the front. So a little bit disappointing from a spectator point of view, but Mercedes will just be walking away going like, oh my God, that's 3 1-2s. No one's done that since I saw the stat was like, when was it? Like the early 90s or something? Like they're in an absolutely dominant position now. And I would put a lot of that down to Valtteri Bottas. Regardless, he didn't get the win this week, but they are, when 2 of them are firing, it's like when Hamilton and Rosberg were both doing incredibly well, minus the fighting. So they should be unstoppable at this point.
I think what we're kind of seeing is the ability of 2 drivers who are allowed to drive against each other and fight to actually maximize points, as opposed to what is usually put out there as like, well, we can't let them fight because we won't maximize the points. I think a lot of people have been pointing out to Ferrari, hey, do you guys realize that if you just let your drivers fight, it doesn't matter who actually wins in front of the other, you guys will have scored more points than you have now. So you have kind of shot yourself in the foot. And I would say, in terms of Ferrari, they've really got all the ingredients except for strategy. They've got a good car. They've got 2 amazing drivers. It just seems like they just can't get their strategy together. And I mean, it's obvious when you look at the standings for the season. It's like Hamilton barely in front of Bottas. After 3 races, you'd expect him to be, almost a win in front. But and then Verstappen, and then both Ferraris, which is crazy. But I mean, for me, there's kind of not much good action to talk about. It's mostly bad action. So you got like Kvyat's moment at the start, Leclerc's strategy, Gasly going for the fastest lap. It's just all sort of, Like if you talk about Gasly going for the fastest lap, he stole a point away from Ferrari, so good on you. You were 30 seconds behind your teammate who was running in, I think he was running in 4th or 5th. So it's like, well, okay, you ended up finishing a minute behind your teammate, even though you stopped for new tires at the end. That's not good. Like, I mean, the only thing you did good was sort of actually not that impressive.
Yeah, Gasly is very lucky that there is nobody at Toro Rosso or in Red Bull's young driver program that is like Max Verstappen, that is like absolutely beating the door down. Like Albon had a good race. You know, he won driver of the day because there was nobody else it was the only remarkable thing.
Just
and I mean remarkable in the sense that the only thing worth remarking on, not in the awe-inspiring. It was a great drive. You know, he started from the pit lane, but it wasn't too much of a disadvantage to start from the pit lane in this race because that whole middle of the pack is just kind of, you know, I could drive past two Williams right now. That car is an absolute dog. You know, as Kubica said, that it just doesn't work. There's nothing for him to do with it. It's the same for George Russell. So, you know, you get past those two. There's a couple of DNFs. You know, you kind of get your strategy right. You race your own race and hey, look, there's a point. Not that difficult, you would think. So what did you think of Albon getting driver of the day?
Yeah, I think it's more based on where he actually started the race rather than where he finished it that got him the driver of the day. And, you know, it's kind of like he did nothing wrong. You kind of put the car where it probably deserved to be. You know, it's fine, but I just don't get excited about it. Like, so, yeah, give him driver of the day, fine. Let him have something. The interesting thing I was going to say about Williams, which you just touched on then, was that I think after the first lap incident between Kvyat and Sainz and Norris, I think Norris had pitted towards the end of the race. He had pitted 4 times and he was still running ahead of the Williams. So that really tells you where they're at, doesn't it? And someone, I think it was Norris, it's just one of those interesting little tidbits where Norris came out with 3 tyres with a coloured band on them and one that had just black, and they were like, what's that about? And it turned out that he had scrubbed the colour off the tyre during the first lap incident, then pitted and changed, and then when they pitted again, they were like, I don't know, put the mediums back on, and he just reused them. And now that I think about it, don't know that I've ever heard of that before. But they were just sitting there and like, they're the closest ones. They make me walk all the way to the rack. Come on, man, my back. It's not what it used to be. And these tires are right here.
If we give the new set back to Williams, will they give us to Pirelli? Will they give us a refund on those? So there's another £1,000 we could put into the car.
Should we get into this first lap incident with Kvyat and his oversteer?
Yeah, at first blush, it looks like he makes a mistake, which is reasonable. First lap, he's going for it like everybody is. Kind of slides into one, catches the tire, and then just kind of like flips out. Well, essentially,
he can't do anything. Once he hits the first car, he can't do anything, right?
Yeah, so it's a pretty normal thing to get a bit of oversteer. Like everything's kind of heating up, everything's kind of getting going. It was very reasonable. If it had happened later in the race and it was just him and somebody else and he was trying to pull an overtake, then maybe
different.
There should have been something, a penalty. But yeah, I thought immediately it was like, oh, classic Kvyat going for way too much in the first lap. And then after a couple of laps and when they got back to analyze it and some different camera angles and you start to go, Anthony Everton is right. That is a hard call.
You just watch the replays and it's like, I'm not seeing what he did that's worth a penalty there. Like there's nothing that he does that's kind of wrong, in quotes, but it's, you know, it affected both cars from the same team. So I guess that's just what you do. You just penalize the guy. I think someone said like he got what did he get? 5-second stop go penalty, something like that. And then the only more serious penalty than that is 10-second stop go. And then the only more serious than that is disqualification. And it's like, oh yeah, well, when you put it like that, that seems a bit harsh for a first lap incident. I mean, especially when this year they've been trying to let them race a bit more. And you could also argue that Norris, who was off the track and was rejoining, I don't know, maybe that's a bit of a dangerous situation to put yourself in. It's just not to say that Norris was at fault at all. I'm not saying that for 1 second, but it's just all a whole bunch of cars all in the wrong spots. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know what else they could have done, but it just does seem a bit harsh. So yeah, it wasn't just him coming like a torpedo, which he infamously did a few years ago, but even then I was like, well, he's allowed to do that. It's not against the rules to overtake people.
If it's Max Verstappen, we're like, oh, what a gun.
Yes,
but
we'd be like,
what a Kvyat. So it's like, well, you keep crashing. There is a real, there's this stat going around that Kimi Raikkonen's finished all 3 races, has 100% of the points for Alfa Romeo. I think that is a reflection on how classy he is compared to basically Gasly down. That everybody else is just kind of a little bit like in struggle town right now. They're still learning the cars. Everything's a bit close. No one really knows what they're trying to do. And they all sort of seem like they're trying to struggle to the end. And and somewhat racing each other, but there's still kind of gaps between everyone. And Kimi Räikkönen's just like, I'm just going to keep my head on straight and just drive this thing relatively conservatively and get it home every week. And that could be a real secret to Alfa Romeo's success this year. Giovinazzi's not exactly lighting the tracks up with his ultimate ability, and maybe Kimi's making the Alfa look a little better than it actually is, but he's comporting himself very well, not creating too many ripples. He's taking, overtakes when they're there, but he's not doing anything insane. And it could be that the Kvyats of the world could learn a little bit from Kimi Räikkönen. Who knows?
Yeah, I hear you. You're back on the Räikkönen bandwagon, where I've always been, where I live and breathe. I literally eat breakfasts on the Kimi Räikkönen bandwagon. Well, let's just celebrate that you joined me in one way or another. Let's not celebrate how you got there. I think that Gasly getting the fastest lap point puts him 1 point ahead of Räikkönen. So, I mean, yep, good on you, Gasly. Way to go. Maybe we get into the Leclerc, the whole
Are we sour? Are we sour on Gasly? Are we having trouble with Pierre Gasly on this podcast now? It could be.
I just am waiting for him to do something. Your move.
Yeah.
Your move, Pierre.
Yeah, your move. And Albon is looking at that spot going, hey, why don't I, another unknown, try to take his position next to Verstappen?
The thing is, right, is that Gasly has great talent, and he showed that last year, but I just don't understand why he's not unlocking it. Because literally, I think Verstappen has 3 times the number of points now that Gasly has. So that's not really looking so good.
Yeah, and I would imagine there would be some clean air between Verstappen, the rest of the field, that Gasly could just sit in every race and be like, cool, it's going to hang out here and finish 6th every time. Like, this should be where I'm finishing.
It should be. The problem is, I think that, we kind of predicted that the Renaults would be right in between those top 3 teams and then the rest of the midfield, and that's pretty much where Ricciardo found himself this week. And the thing is that in front of him was a 30-second cushion, and then there was Pierre Gasly, and then in front of Pierre Gasly, another 30-second cushion. He should be hanging on to the back of Verstappen as much as he can, but he can't. He's got weak fingers or something. Like, no, he needs to get his fingernails in, sharpen them to a point, grab onto the back of the rear wing of Verstappen and just follow him everywhere he goes.
Yeah, where Verstappen, and be a little bit more like the shark that Verstappen has been recently. I would say through his career, which is that he can just, he's a needler. He causes enough of a problem that he has Ferrari looking over their shoulder, and that like sort of any kind of unsettling for Ferrari seems to like completely shake them up, and they really freak out and create drama from everything. So it's, as you tried to segue to it before, and I will take the segue now and say that. How did you? Let me just ask the question: should Ferrari?
No, actually, I want to talk about Haas. Let's move on to something else.
Gunther Steiner. How would you have? Would you have switched Vettel and Leclerc when Ferrari did?
No, but let me say this. I would have switched them earlier than they did, if you're going to do it. Because this is it, right? They're just hesitating. They hesitated last time when was it, Australia, when Leclerc was faster. Should have just let him through or not let him through, and they just sort of hesitated until it was too late, and they went, I suppose you're too slow now. Would have let Seb through more or less straight away. The problem is that they've created this political problem for themselves now, and they're kind of like, well, Seb's really got to prove himself beyond a shadow of a doubt before we let him through. So instead of just letting Seb through and letting him actually maximize what he could have done, they held him back. And then by the time they made the decision, Seb gets through and boom, his tires are more or less sort of chewed up. And I mean, he made a few mistakes. He was making a bit of an advantage, but then he made a few mistakes, which made it look like it was a bit of a wash. But then the other problem was what to do with Leclerc, because then Verstappen pits. You got to pit one of them, so you pit Vettel, and Vettel comes out right in front of Verstappen. If you had pitted Leclerc, Verstappen would have had him on toast. So it was like, let's consolidate that position. What do we do with Leclerc? You didn't pit him. You didn't tell him to push so that you could pit him again. You didn't tell him to stretch it out enough. That just left him in no man's land. So neither strategy was ever going to work, and then he paid the price.
Yeah, it was just a nothing race for Leclerc in the end.
Just garbage.
Which, poor guy's just sitting there like, the tyres aren't good enough to make him go long, so what do you want him to do? It's like, just stay there. And he's just losing time. And it must just be so frustrating, because I think it was genuinely taking all of Vettel's ability to catch Leclerc. I think he was having to drive the wheels off it to be like, look, I'm faster, I'm faster, I'm faster. And Leclerc's like, I'm not sure he is, because he's got all the DRS every single time. And this Ferrari is incredibly quick in a straight line. And he's not getting anywhere near me. So, excuse that, more construction happening next door. But he wasn't, if he was that much faster, surely with the DRS enabling, he could have got side by side with him. But he was only ever getting to like 0.7 behind. So, I don't know. I don't think he actually was that close. And what maybe the reason they swapped them is that because Leclerc was having to essentially defend against his teammate, he wasn't making any grounds on Mercedes. So once you swap, you would then essentially say, okay, well, no more fighting each other. Vettel, just go. And then he tried to go and he couldn't do anything. So you're right. The tyres were scrubbed by then. It was just a real, not that you're a number two, so we're going to disadvantage you, but we're going to do nothing to disadvantage our number one driver kind of move, Like, we'll just give him the best of what we can, and whatever juice we can squeeze out of the oily rag, Leclerc can have, right? Yeah, and it's a shame, because I often side with if you've done the work off the start, I side with the people who have managed to get through that first phase of the race and gone like, look, I did all this hard stuff. I threaded through my way through the field, survived all the obstacles that Bernie's thrown on the track. No, that, has come my way. I evaded the backwards red shells, and look, here I am in third. Haven't I earned my, the important strategy decisions? Anything like that?
I mean, Vettel was a little bit, cornered. He was boxed in by Bottas, who got a bad start. So Hamilton and Leclerc did manage to kind of sneak past. But I don't know. You could argue this stuff all day. I just thought that, Ferrari just haven't learnt the lessons of the last few years, really. And
they haven't learned a lesson since Ross Brawn left. Since Ross Brawn stopped running their strategy, they haven't had a strategist.
Here's what I'll say. Let's just embrace the fact that Vettel didn't spin.
I know, right? How lucky. Although everybody was spinning on the parade lap, the start lap.
Start the counter. The Vettel no-spin counter, we're at 1. We'll give you an update every week.
Races since Vettel's last spin. 1.
That's it. Maybe we need that's a website. Racessincevettelspan.com. I don't know. Is there anything to say about Ricciardo? It's his first good result, really. And, it's exactly where we expected him to be. He was obviously pretty happy. But, again, it's a bit like, what do you get excited about 7th? Come on, man.
Well, Renault should only be happy because they put together a race weekend, right? No problems for Daniel Ricciardo. No big reliability issues. Got through qualifying, didn't make any mistakes. Looked good, raced well. But that's what I think. This is the result he's been expecting this season. Just to be doing this 7th. If he can be 7th every single race, that's what he's shooting for, right? And the occasional wet race or race where he can try a contra strategy or something like that, he might be able to sneak a podium. Yeah. And Hülkenberg probably feels the same. So it's the world of Haas where they seem to live. Just the kind of waiting game of like, hopefully something falls our way, and all we can do is do our best to be there when luck comes to us, and that's it. So, yeah. He was fine. Yeah, I feel like I didn't see him. I liked his retro helmet for the F1000 race.
Yeah, it was a Jack Brabham reference, right?
Yeah, it was. It was cool.
Pretty nice.
I really like it. His helmet game's been amazing this year.
Well, yeah. I liked this one better than his regular one, let's put it that way.
You don't like the pink and greeny blue one?
No, I do not.
I love it. This is classic us.
Classic us, right? Exactly. Well, classic me, not liking anything, and classic you being like, it's the raddest thing to ever rad.
Yeah, that's me.
Classic guys. The thing about Ricciardo in 7th, it's just something to build on, right? That's just like now, instead of DNFing every race, we have a platform, and let's launch into the top 6 from there. I feel like that's more or less covered the race, to be honest. I don't feel like we've said a single thing, certainly nothing funny or worth listening to. But yeah, maybe we just need to move on into F1 Fantasy Update, aka Fantasy Focus. There's no bumper. Maybe I'll make one eventually, but Jumping into the top of the league this week is James Ward managing the Hawk Moon Racing, shooting up into number 1 position. Very well done to you, James. I noticed that we got up to a total of 83 members, which is nice for a little bump. We're charging towards 100. I did want to shout out one of the team names. What one was it? Oh, this is from Modus Operandi, as in Modus Operandi, but spelled Zandy. That's obviously Zandy. Thanks, Zandy. Her team name SCMODS, which, if you know what SCMODS is, I know what it is. But if you know what it is, well done. You and me are just having a little chuckle to ourselves at the name SCMODS. And everyone else, you have to Google it, I suppose.
I'm going to have to Google it. I don't know what SCMODS is.
Wait till after the race. Wait till after the show. You'll have plenty of time for that when you're at home. So, bad news. We might have jumped up to 83 members, but I have actually fallen to 62nd, which means I've either been doing really badly or new people are already better than me, and both of them just make me feel generally bad about myself, Zach.
Yeah, I made some team changes this week, Rod. And you'll never guess what I did. I brought Sainz in and McLaren. They were my big choices, my big changes. I can't even see. Where am I in the thing? Sorry, I'm just bringing it up now.
57, something like that.
Oh, just holding position then, Rod.
Way down there.
That's where I want to be.
On the old third page with zero engineering, 55.
I also picked Leclerc for fastest lap and to come second this week. That was wrong. That was bad. That was bad.
Well, it wasn't good.
Maybe next time.
Maybe next time. If you want to join the Super License League, you go to fantasygp.com and look for the Super License Universe League. We've tweeted it. We posted it on the Facebook page. But if you still can't find the league, let us know. We'll get you in. Love for more people to join, and we will shout out your funny team name and laugh at it. Just like that. I guess that's done with fantasy. Time to get into the Super Quiz.
We will accept a couple of questions. Should one only win one? Would one want to have won that one in round one?
Can you repeat the question?
Super Quiz. I'm on this repeating thing at the moment. I don't know why. It's weird. Just stop that. Just stop doing that. So, Zach, it is the 1000th Formula One race. How does that make you feel?
Well, with all of the intros and all of that kind of stuff, it felt great. And then there was nothing about it during the race at all. I saw a comment on Reddit that resounded so well with me. They were like, what was the deal with the broadcast this week? There was horrible camera. Like every single time they cut to the guy who was obviously filming down the straight. It was like they caught him, he'd just finished following the cars, and they were like, let's flick to him as he's turning his camera 180 to go back down the straight and like refocusing and zooming in and trying to work out where the next set of cars were.
Not great.
That was bad, really bad. And they were seemingly following the wrong things around some of the time. And then nothing about F1000. Like it was just the occasional stat from the Sky commentary that was like, oh, did you know that here's one thing? You know, you really... maybe they should have had a halftime show or something, made everybody do a virtual safety car.
I don't know what they could have done because, like, what do you want? What do you want from a 1000th race? Like, I just don't get it. Like, what? It's ultimate disappointment. It's like New Year's Eve, but for F1 races.
Well, maybe they should have had a quiz, like they do in cricket when it's boring in the middle of the game. They quiz each other on questions.
What do you mean? Like during the commentary?
Yeah. David Croft could have been asking Martin Brundle super quiz type questions, like I'm sure you're about to ask me.
You got it all wrong. You got it all mixed around. They should have asked us to do a super quiz in the middle of the race. That would have been good. They'll just throw a virtual SC and just stop everybody, slow them down, and then we'll just jump in with a bit of a quiz, and that'll liven things up. So here we go, Zach. It's the F1000 quiz. The good news is I've got only 6 questions. The bad news is they're all ridiculously hard and you will not get any of them right.
Yes.
Sucks to suck, hey man.
Is this payback from you?
No, it's not. I knew you were going to say that. It's not payback for you asking me the easiest questions in the world and me getting all of them wrong. It's definitely not payback for that. I just decided it's the 1000th race, and every 1000 races we're going to do an impossible quiz. That's my new rule that I just brought in just now. So, are you ready to get started?
Yes.
Okay. What percentage of the 1000 races that we've had have been won by a driver whose first name starts with A?
Whose first name
super easy one to
with
start
A.
with. Everybody knows this.
What percentage?
What percentage of the 1000 races?
First name starts with A.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Alan Prost, he's won some races. So,
Yes.
yeah, and then I'm sure there's some others. So I'm going to say
It's a walk in the park from here.
1%.
1%. No, I'm afraid you are wrong by a factor of 10.8%. The correct answer is Alan Prost has won 51 races, Ayrton Senna has won 41 races, Alberto Ascari 13, Alan Jones 12, and then, of course, who could forget Alessandro Nannini with his one win. That's 118.
That's the one I forgot.
1,000 races, that is 11.8%. Tragically, you are nowhere near it, Zach. I'm very, very sorry. That
I got the number, one of the numbers right.
You got one out of the three. That's 33% if you think about it that way. As predicted, you didn't get that one right, and I predict that form will continue as we move on. As it turns out, when you look at a lot of the milestone races, a lot of them have been noteworthy, controversial. There's actually a lot going on around the 100th races as you move through the 1,000. So we'll start with the 500th Grand Prix, where things got tense. It was ironically, it was at the Adelaide Grand Prix, and this was just after the race in Suzuka when Senna deliberately crashed into Prost to win the championship. So,
two A's.
Race, yes,
that would have changed
exactly.
that would have
Going
changed
head-to-head.
the maths on
It
the last
would
question.
have. You're very clever. I mean, are you fishing for a bonus point here?
Okay, Dad,
Because
you're very clever, sir.
One. The question, though, Zach, is obviously things got really, really tense. Prost was super pissed off. The question is, what did Prost refuse to do because he was so furious with Ayrton Senna?
He refused to shake his hand.
See, I set you up for that, and of course he fell for it. He refused to take part in the champions photo, where they got as many champions as they could, F1 champions, together for a photo, and Prost was so angry he refused to be anywhere near Senna, didn't want to be in the photo. Also, interestingly, Alan Jones didn't want to be in the photo, despite being Australian and 100% being at the track. He just didn't want to be in it. Like, man, what a loose unit.
Why? God, that's so dumb.
He's just right there. All he has to do is waddle out onto the straight, have a little snap. I mean, he's always got his hair slicked back. It's not like it wouldn't have looked good. You're weird, AJ.
We're way harsh on people like Lewis Hamilton for when they get a little bit grumpy. Like we're talking about back in the day, people got really grumpy. Formula One drivers are really terse.
Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. We're harsh. Let's skip forward a few hundred races to the 700th Grand Prix, which was Brazil 2003.
I remember it well.
Yes, exactly. It was red flagged following a huge crash between Mark Webber and Fernando Alonso. There was an overtake for the lead right around the time that the red flag was thrown, which led to confusion between whether Raikkonen or Giancarlo Fisichella had actually won. But the question, Zach, is not who won, but what was strange about Fisichella's car at the end of the race.
What was strange about Fisichella's car at the end of the race?
Yeah.
It was crap, so there's no way it should have been winning.
It was a Jordan, so yeah, you're correct.
I'm going to guess that it didn't have a rear wing.
No. Well, I mean, it did. It's just that the whole car was a little bit on fire. So,
right.
You know when drivers win a championship or something, or they retire, and the team's like, here, have the car. This was the last time that Jordan won a race ever before they ceased to be a team. And I just kind of like to think that they would have given the still smoking, smouldering remains of the car to Fisichella. Like, here you go. And he's like, no thanks.
I'm out.
It's a dog in the car. Nope, don't want it. That was race 700. Okay, Zach, we've got two more to go. Race 800 was also marred in controversy. Nelson Piquet Jr. crashing to ensure that teammate Fernando Alonso won the Singapore Grand Prix. Isn't it amazing how all these things happen on the 100th races?
I want to call them Grand Prix now forever.
Grand Prix, you can do that. It's very late here. Behind Alonso in P2, though, was Williams driver Nico Rosberg, who claimed that, at the time, was his career best place, despite getting a 10-second stop-go penalty for what infringement, Zach?
Oh, my God.
I told you these were hard.
10-second stop-go incident.
This is really a quiz for the listeners who are always like, these quizzes are so easy. It's not even for you. I'm sorry. I didn't even write these
What
for
did
you.
he do? What did he do? He crashed into somebody else. He shoved somebody else off the track. That person was Lewis Hamilton, and that was what made them really angry later in their careers.
I love a bit of forecasting there. No, I'm afraid not. The infringement that Nico Rosberg incurred was refueling while the pit lane was closed. Robert Kubica also did this, and they were both slapped with a 10-second stop-go penalty, during which time Nico Rosberg, I guess, looked in the mirror and adjusted his hair. No AJ Styles slick hairstyles, yeah. I know, right? I know. Refueling. That was only 200 races ago that we were refueling. Crazy.
Oh, as little as that.
I know. All right, last question, Zach. This is probably the hardest of them all. I know you're thinking it's been a cakewalk till now, but yeah, this is the hardest one. Race 900, the infamous Bahrain Grand Prix of 2014, where Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg were trading blows for the lead. Of course, everybody remembers it for that, but not me. I remember it for the singer who conducted the podium interviews post-race. Zach, of course, you're going to tell me who the singer was right now.
Far out. Who the singer was.
We were podcasting at the time of this race.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that's why it hurts. That's why I had to go extra hard on this one.
Oh, who would it have been? The singers that occupy my mind. God.
I'll tell you this. I could tell you the guy's name, and you would not be able to tell me who he is or what band it is. If I told you the name of the band, you would get it. You would know. You know the band.
Oh, shit. I know the band?
You do.
Or are they a rock band? They must be. Oh, was it like Adam Lambert or something like that?
This is a hard quiz, man. I'm like, no more clues than that.
Was it like the lead singer of Maroon 5 or something?
I'll tell you what. I like the areas that you're in, but unfortunately you're incorrect. The correct answer was Brian Johnson from, of course, the AC/DC band.
Yeah, very
the
similar
AC/DC
to
band,
Maroon
that's
5.
not their name.
Hi, we're the AC/DC band from Melbourne.
Yeah. Well, I think he's from England, but doesn't matter.
No, but the band.
the band, right? But the band. Yeah. So there you go. The hardest quiz we've probably ever done. I'm sorry that I feel like I set you up to fail, but I also don't mind too much because, again, every 1,000. I mean, you won't have one this hard for another 1,000 races. So there you go. Look forward to that.
Well, and it pointed out 2 things that I do not miss. Actually, 3 things. Drivers driving into each other on purpose to create outcomes that they prefer. The second thing is refueling. We definitely don't need that in the sport anymore because it's so dangerous. And 3, post-podium interviews with celebrities. That was junk.
Don't know anything about the race whatsoever or the sport, and just they asked rubbish questions. I distinctly remember when this happened, and it was around the time, it was early days for us, but we were like, yeah, really, really, really do not need these crappy celebrities doing the podium interviews.
No, exactly. It's junk. It's a hard thing to do, interviews, and I mean, presenters don't even do it very well. Even when Martin Brundle does it, he doesn't do a great job.
We've done single digits of them, but we consider ourselves experts. Zach, that was the hardest super quiz that we've ever done. Thank you very much for your patience and for still talking to me and agreeing to do the show with me, I assume. Maybe we should just wrap things up with our final thoughts for the week. What have you got in your pocket?
What have I got in my pocket for the final thoughts of the week? I'm glad that China was on at 7 a.m. London time because it meant that I could watch it, go back to sleep, wake up, and then get to the end of the day yesterday and go like, God, was that Grand Prix today? That was this morning. Oh my God. Like just have my mouth totally cleansed of that boring race by an incredible Masters. Congratulations, Tiger Woods, on your incredible comeback, regardless of personal issues aside. It was a great thing to watch. I don't really watch golf, but that was amazing.
I saw that he won, but that's fine.
It was cool. He's an old man. Right. He shows that the rest of us could come back, and maybe I've got a future as a Formula One driver. I might not have done it yet, but I could do it later. What about you? Some thoughts? Final thoughts?
I don't know. I know what anybody will take away from this, but here's what happened to me when I watched the race this week. I had booked tickets to a comedy show. Ticket. Ooh. I only needed one. I didn't buy 2 for myself. That's silly.
Comedy for one, thank you.
To one comedy show. One laugh, please. And without realizing it, the show was starting at the same time as the race was finishing. So I watched the first half of the race at home on TV and then drove to the train station, sat on the train, and then stood outside the venue waiting for the race to finish while watching all of it on my phone. So, as God intended for me to watch a race. So that was different. I don't know what to take away from it. Just it was different. And
I think you live in the future.
Yeah, maybe. And we were talking before that we recorded about how when there's like a middle of the night race, if you lie in bed and try and watch it on your phone, you're probably just going to fall asleep or just forget it. So,
or wake up to your phone whacking you in your face because you were holding it there, fell asleep and let go. My iPad falls onto my face. I put my iPad on its little like stand thing that's also its case, and it bounced that on my chest. And if I fall asleep while that's happening, it just whacks me in the chin and falls forward.
That's not
So,
good.
yeah, not great. But, you know.
The thing is, then when you go and put it on the side, on your little side stand thing next to your bed.
I'll fall asleep immediately.
Yeah, but the other problem is the screen is like rotated weirdly, and then you've got to lock the rotation, and it just becomes a whole thing. Like, I mean, you may as well get up at that point.
Yeah, just go and watch it on your massive TV.
That's it. That's our final thought. You may as well get up. That's the final thought. I guess the next race is in Baku. So good news. That race is usually fucking bonkers. So there you go. We'll have a better show next time, and we'll have something more interesting to talk about.
Castle race.
Yes, exactly. Castle race. The castle race. Hashtag the castle race. Yeah, well, Zach, unless you have anything else that you want to contribute, we might go out on fucking bonkers and...
No, that's it. Call it.
All right.
I love
I'll
it.
close the door on you. Until next time, my name's been Rod.
My name's been Zach.
We'll see you for the next episode for the fucking bonkers race out of the castle race.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Oh, yeah.
Damn it, man, I haven't been pulled over in 6 months. I bet those cops have got SCMODS. SCMODS? State, County, Municipal Offender Data System.